mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better. This Christmas, and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together. This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. Presents and cards are here. My world is filled with cheer and you.
Good morning. This is Regina Perkins, and this is your host of the Regina Perkins Show. Regina Perkins herself. Just want to bless you for joining us this morning. Praise God, it's the holiday season. I hope you were enjoying that holiday music that I was playing just right there. This is a time of year where we talk about love, we talk about the love of Christ, and we always have to remember that the reason for the season is because of Jesus Christ. I know we love to give gifts, and we love to share during the holiday season, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we also must remember to keep our focus that it is about Him. This morning on the show, I do have a very special guest with me, a person that I love very much, and that I would like to introduce to you all, and it is my husband, Regina Perkins. Say good morning to the people, baby.
Good morning.
He's a man of very few words, but we're going to talk this morning about relationships, and we're going to talk about, like I said, this is the holiday season. It's about love, and it's about sharing. So I just wanted to come on and talk about us as a couple, and not so much as us as a couple, but a lot of people always ask, how did you all stay together so long? We got married in 1992. So this is going on, how many years, baby? 26 years. Okay. So, we've been together a long time, and we did get married very young, and we have 4 girls, and so, we've seen a lot of things. We've been through a lot of stuff, and every day has not been perfect. Don't let anybody tell you that in a marriage or in any relationship that you have, that every day that you will even like each other. But you still have to always remember that, the Bible says what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And so it requires a lot of sacrifice, requires a lot of just dying to yourself in order to stay in any kind of relationship or marriage. And we just wanted to talk about a couple of things that you could do to create a lasting relationship. You can look at this as far as a marriage or any other relationship that you may have, and how do you make a relationship last? And there's a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. Number one thing, and I'm gonna let my husband do some talking here, baby. We talked about a couple of things, and one of the things that you spoke about in a relationship, what was one of the first things that you said that to have a relationship to last? And you can go ahead and talk, because I'm doing all the talking, but you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, sacrifice.
Okay, what do you mean by sacrifice?
That, what keeps a marriage whole together.
And what do you mean by sacrifice?
Well, a lot of times there are things that you want to do, that I want to do. We can't do both of them at the same time. So one has to submit to the other and say, okay, fine, I'll put mine on the back burner and we'll do it later, and we'll do what you want to do. And so, you want to go to the park and walk, we'll go to the park and walk. I may want to watch a game on television, and something else may be going on more important. I'll record my game and watch it later and let you watch what you want to watch.
Okay.
So submission, and sacrifice don't just come on the woman. A lot of time the man has to sacrifice and a lot of things.
Right. Okay. So you get the best of both worlds, because I heard you say, I'll go to the park with you and just record my game. But even if you don't get to record your game or whatever it is that you want to do, you still sometimes have to do some things that you do not want to for the sake of your spouse, or,
That is true.
You have to put your feelings aside.
That's true.
Even sometimes you may be tired, or sometimes you don't feel like it.
You have to press and go on anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
It's sacrifice,
We said earlier, we talked about give and take. And you brought up that point about giving and taking, and that it's not just sometimes we get in a relationship, and for speaking as a woman for myself, sometimes we can get in our marriage, and I see some, not saying our marriage is perfect, but a lot of time women do a lot, especially if you have small kids. And as being a mother and as a housewife, when my children were young, I remember just always doing stuff, always, keeping the house clean, always keeping, having food ready and taking care of the kids. And you were always doing and doing. But there was times when my husband would even come home from work and he would say, hey, I'll do this. I'll wash the dishes, or I'll load the dishwasher. Even though, I was not on a physical job, there was, I still needed time to myself, and I was still tired. It is a full-time job taking care of kids. So there were times that he would come home from working a long hours, long day, but he yet still would take the time to load the dishwasher. And a task like that, it may seem simple or it may seem insignificant, but to a mother with small kids, it means the world to them just to know that you care enough about them to come off of your job, and you're tired and had a stressful day, but you still came home and you put them first and thought about, hey, let me load the dishwasher, let me put in a load of clothes. I'm coming in and I see towels that are dirty, and even now I'm coming home from work and I'm tired, and instead of saying, hey, you haven't washed any towels, where are the clean towels, or look at all the dishes, instead of doing that, he comes home and he'll go and he'll just take the load of clothes and load of towels, and he'll go put them in the washing machine without making any kind of fuss about it, or making any kind of remark. He'll just do it anyway. And so, and that's motivation to me. Okay, hey, I wish I would have did that before he got home, because I knew he was tired. And so it motivates me even more to say, next time, I'll have this done, because you feel like somebody actually cared about you, instead of criticizing you. They just took the time and say, just let me come alongside and help,
That's true. That is very true.
So, yeah.
That is so true, because a lot of times, my wife is preparing to go out and minister, and it, you don't just sit down and just come up with a word in 5 seconds. It takes a lot of study, and it takes a lot of preparing, and, to me, I think that it's just as much as a task as me going to work every day, because, people that think that, getting up and standing before people ministering is easy, but it's not. It takes a lot of preparation and a lot of work. So it's just as much work as me going to a job from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, I'll tell you, I'm going to help some of you guys, some of these small things that you come home and do after even working those long hours. You might not think that it's significant, but it does. Right. It is important,
Right.
I'll just give you one thing that I don't even want my wife doing, and it's just me. You may think differently. I don't want my wife to clean the bathroom. I cleans the bathrooms. I cleans the toilets and the tubs and stuff like that. Make sure the trash is taken out. Why? Because it's just one of the things that I like to do, to make sure that she doesn't have to touch those dirty things when she, it's just me personally, Everybody has their own preference, You may think that your wife is supposed to do that, but you don't. That's not me.
Right.
So,
But, I heard somebody else say once, one time before, what works in your family, what works in your relationship, what works in your home may not work in somebody else's home. And, which is very true. We can sometimes have rules and we have all this 1, 2, 3, 4 we have all these standards when we go into a marriage or in a relationship, and that is supposed, number one, you're supposed to do this, number two, you're supposed to do that. We listen to what our parents said or what our grandmother said. But when you get in your own relationship, what works for you may not work for somebody else.
True.
That may have worked in your sister friend's household, but that may not work in your household. And so sometimes we get caught up in that, and we bring confusion in our own homes because we go out and we listen to what other people say and how they run their house. Well, I wouldn't do that. She ought to clean the toilet, or she ought to this and that. But if this is what works in my house and keeps peace in my house, if this is how our family works, then that's how my family works. Maybe that's the way you do yours. So you can't take your relationship and how your family runs and how you function and compare it to somebody else's, because what works for them may not work for you. And so you go out and you listen to somebody else, and then you bring those ideas home and try to implement them in your home. And when you try it, then it falls apart. And then you wonder why there's confusion and that you're arguing because you're trying to take something else and put it in and implement it into your house. And that's not what God gave you. God knows how God knows how your spouse operates. When you married each other, he made us complementary. Where I'm weak, he's strong, and where he's strong, I'm weak. And so he made us complementary and gave us a point of tolerance for each other. So what works for you may not work for everybody else. And remember, what we're talking about is not only is having a lasting relationship. Like I said before, people have asked us, how have you been married that long? It hasn't been perfect. And, and you never stop growing in a relationship, because even though we have been married that long, there's still things I still don't know about him. There's still, because why? Because you don't stay the same. I'm not the same person I was at 20 years old. I'm a different person now, because we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. And so I may have liked black coffee when I was 30, but I'm 40 now, so I may not like black coffee anymore. What worked then, as we evolve and as we grow and as we change. And I hope that's what we're doing, because some of us can look at our relationships and they're stale and we're not having any fun anymore. And a lot of time it's because we have not allowed ourselves to evolve and change and grow with our spouse. And sometimes we can get to a point where we do become unequally yoked in a sense, because this spouse have allowed themselves to grow, and then the other spouse is still just in the place they was 10 years ago. And so because of that, you find yourself in almost lopsided and unbalanced.
And saying that, where you're weak, your spouse is strong, and you have to pull on that when you see it's going to help you or benefit you. Just don't make it,
right,
let it be passive, oh, she's doing this, oh, he's doing that.
Right.
Take it and think about it for a second. Hey, this ideal will work a whole lot better than my ideal. I have had that own experience myself. There are a lot of areas where my wife is much stronger in things than I am, and I'm strong in some things that she's not.
Right.
Just small examples. She's been traveling a lot more. She's learning a lot more about being on the road by herself and going places and doing things, and
right.
it's helped her, in areas, and a lot of things that she's doing now, I'm taking heed and listen. I'm like, wow, she's way past me in this area in life. Something as small as music. I used to be way ahead of her, keeping up to date on music that's out, gospel music, and then now she's just she gets everything before I even hear about it. It may be months and months, sometime a year later, and she, tells me about some new gospel music that's come out now. I've just kind of just let it pass me by. So, you got to continue to pull on her weaknesses, her strengths,
right,
and his strengths as you grow older together.
Right. And not only in saying with that, you have to listen to your spouse.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we miss the communication sometimes, because we don't take the time out to listen, because like I said, we're not the same, because we're constantly evolving and you're constantly growing in your relationship. And sometimes we can miss, let's see, how can I say that? Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. And your spouse can sometimes be trying to speak some things to you, and because you see them as that same person, you misinterpret the new person that God is bringing them into. You miss the new perspective that they may have on something. We can't stay the same because stuff will be stale. We have to learn how to change and grow. So, I see a lot of couples, still doing the same thing they did 10 years. It's not working. It's time to change. It's time to move. It's time to move forward and try some new different things. Go to a new place to eat dinner. Travel, become more inspired. And when you do that, you'll see your relationship change, because there's another dimension to your relationship. Because every season of your life brings another dimension of something different. Your 20s are different than your 30s. Your 30s are going to be different than your 40s. Your 50s will be different than your 60s. So it brings a new dimension. So you have to get out and change and do something totally different. Go take a dance class, or me and my husband, we just get in the car, and a lot of people say, y'all are always traveling. Well, sometimes you get tired of the same old thing. So we get up and we just go. You don't have to have a lot of money to go and travel, make a road trip out of it. And go somewhere and try new things, go to the art museum and look at art, and get inspired. And God can begin to show you more things and begin to show you another dimension of life, new things and new people. So you have to do that to keep your relationship fresh and keep things going.
So true.
You want to add something?
With that being said, just what we're doing today is opening me up to things that I said I would never do or I would never think about doing. So just doing this podcast today with her is just kind of opening my eyes up to some new things too,
Right. Yeah, because he didn't want to do it, but...
And with that being said, every day is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be great. But for the most parts, you love your spouse. You tell them that you love them. You don't and you show them that you love them. Love is shown and expressed in many different ways, and everybody's got their own way of showing and express it. You may have your way. I've got my own way. So. Right.
But you do have to learn how to love your spouse the way that they want to be loved, though.
Right.
So, because sometimes you think that, I just did this, that, well, maybe that's not their love language. And if you haven't read that book about the 5 love languages, please go read it. It will not only help you in your marriage. It's by Gary Chapman. It will not only help you in your marriage, but it help you in, like I said, in any relationships and just having an understanding of people. Sometimes we misunderstand people. We misunderstand their personality quirks. And because of that, sometimes we may think a person is rude. We may think a person is this when it's really just their personality. So when we learn the love languages, we learn how to communicate with a person. We learn what their expectations are. We learn if your love language, my love language is communication and quality time. And my husband's love language is physical touch. And so to him, if I'm not physically touching him, he don't feel like he's loved. To me, if you're not communicating or talking or spending quality time with me, then I'm not feeling like I'm loved. So we have to know how to understand each other. You have to understand how your spouse operates, understand their personality. Is more to having a relationship with a lasting relationship than having sex. You have to have more involved in your relationship than that. You have to understand that person. You have to know who they are and what they like to do and what they like to enjoy and how to please them. So,
let me help some of your brothers out there. A lot of times your wife wants you to listen to her, wants you to hear her. And if you would take that 30 minutes, an hour, or however long it takes to hear her out, hear what she has to say, you'd be surprised the rewards that you would benefit out of it, And we're not just talking about intimacy, but we're talking about all kinds of things, the little things that you wanted her to do. She, may be open to doing things like that now. Just by that time you sacrificed and listened to her.
Right. That's so true. So, in closing this out, like we said, every day is not going to be great in your relationship, but in the end, I think the glue that has held us together is having God in our lives and making sure that God is first. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can be upset with your spouse. You can argue. You can disagree about things. And maybe you can't even come to an agreement about it. But at the end of the day, if you know God has brought you together, God is the deciding factor which keeps you together.
That's right.
God has the last and final say. And if we make that be our precedent, if we make going to God be the final say, regardless of what we feel or what we think, if we make the scriptures, the word of God, be the deciding factor in any situation, any disagreement, any circumstances that we're dealing with, then that is the glue that will hold you together. So I think that that are some of the, this of course, this is not an exhaustive talk on, on relationships. We don't have all the answers. There are no formulas. This is just what we have done.
Right.
And this is just a tip of the iceberg, because we could go on and on and on,
Right.
talking about different things, because there's so many factors, your children, having children. Right. There's so many facets of marriage and so many areas that you have to deal with in a relation, being married,
I'll tell you, over the 26 years that we have been married and over the 30 plus years we've been together, if it wasn't for God, we couldn't have made it this far.
Right,
I thank God
absolutely.
that He touched our heart and saved us at a young age in our
Right.
20s, because we had a great responsibility of raising 4 girls
Right.
into this world. And I'll tell you, it used to be days where it wasn't easy, and it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for?
It wasn't easy.
It just wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy.
But with God and praying, we did it.
It wasn't easy. That's
We
the
did it. So, like I said, we could go on and on.
right.
There are so many testimonies and so many things we could say. But like you said, in closing, if it wasn't for God, we wouldn't have been able to do this at all.
Amen.
At all.
Right.
And we
right.
still have a ways to go.
Right.
We're
right.
still trying to get children through college, and we have grandkids now. It's a new chapter in our life, so we're doing all kind of things that we don't have a person we can go to and ask, okay, can you tell me how to do this, how to do that?
We're in
We have
another
to drop
season.
to our knees and ask God to
We're in another
please give
season.
us some direction.
Right. So this is another season of our marriage. As I said before, there's different seasons. So now we're in another season. So there's never a dull moment in a life of your marriage, because it's a different season. So, we just want to leave you all with this, keep God first in your relationships. Pray together, go to church together, spend time with each other, and the Lord with you. And that will keep you all on the same page and creating a lasting relationship. So
I enjoyed this, so I will do it again.
Did y'all enjoy hearing my husband? I hope you did, because I had to pull teeth to get him to come on with me. We just wanted to do a little something different today. I've been saying that I was going to add some new facets to the Regina Perkins show and start doing some interviews. So what way to start than to start with my husband? And I hope to get him back on here again to have some more talks about relationships. You guys let me know if you enjoyed that, if it was helpful. It was the first time for him being on, so I think he did a good job. So we just kind of did this impromptu and just decided, let's do this. It's the holiday season, listening to Christmas music and, thinking about love. And it was listening to, the Christmas songs. I was like, let's do a podcast together and talk about relationships, because we've been married so long. Surely there's something that we can be able to say and drop some nuggets into someone's life. So I just want to bless you all. Thank you for joining us, and bless you. And thank you for joining the Regina Perkins show, baby. You got anything else you want to say?
No, I'm pretty good. I just want to send my blessings to everyone that's listening. I pray that God prospers you and bless you in this season. It's Christmas season.
All right. We're out. God bless you.
Hang all the mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better. this Christmas, and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together. This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. Presents and cards are here. My world is filled with cheer and you. This Christmas, and as I look around, your eyes outshine the town they do. This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. Yeah. Shake a hand now. The fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Shake a hand.